Peace, family. MJ the Mastermind checking in. Another video. Personal development, reality creation, all things in between. So, I was just walking around and this concept came to my mind. And it's this concept of identity benefit. The concept of identity benefit. What does this mean? So, when we're looking at life, right, and we're looking at it from the perspective of there's certain actions that we have to take in order to get certain results, right? Now, the concept of identity is so important because a lot of the actions and behaviors that we exude on a day-to-day basis are a representation of our identity and our self-image. Okay? Now, all actions that we have to take to ultimately become the best version of ourselves and to ultimately fulfill the vision that we've created for ourselves are not all actions we may want to do. And we all know, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You got to make different decisions to get different results. All of these different things, right? But what I want to challenge y'all to do is to start looking at things from a different perspective. When we're looking at actions and behaviors, we have to start looking at it from the perspective of what's the identity benefit? What is the identity benefit of this behavior, this action, this habit, whatever it may be, right? Because at the end of the day, the identity is the foundation. And if you can create the identity of the version of yourself that you want to become, and you start identifying as that version now, because that's all identity, like self-identity is. It's identifying with a specific thing, a specific version of yourself, right? So once you can identify yourself with that version of yourself, then it forces the universe to create that version of reality that goes with that identity. Because now that identity is your frequency. And because that's your frequency, your energy, and your vibration, you're going to attract things that are aligned with that same frequency, including the vision, the outcome, the results, the manifestations, all things that go along with that. Now, again, a lot of us are driven by programs over the course of our lives. And that's why certain actions that we engage in, certain behaviors that we engage in, may not be congruent with the outcomes that we want. And human beings can be very, very stubborn. Right? We can be stubborn. Okay? And that stubbornness can lead to us engaging in actions, engaging in behaviors, engaging in habits that are not congruent to our growth or not conducive to our growth. And if you want to learn more on that, go watch the last video I posted. I took a deeper dive, actually 2 videos ago. Took a deeper dive into that, right? The programming aspect. But that's why it's so important to be aware, to slow yourself down, because when you start breathing correctly, right? If you didn't know, breathing is the key to maintaining the best frequency, because when you slow your body down, you slow your mind down, right? Because the two are linked. So when you start breathing correctly and you take longer inhales and longer exhale, you'll naturally feel your awareness rise, your frequency rise, right? And then when that happens, you can start to detach yourself from the current programs because you're now aware. And the process of awareness breeds intention, because you cannot be intentional unless you are aware. The process of awareness breeds intention. So now, when you're able to be intentional, now you're able to select the identity that you want, because you're aware. And that awareness now, that awareness allows you to take control of your mind. How do you take control of your mind, MJ? Easy. If I ask you what are some things that you're grateful for right now, it forces you to think about things that you're grateful for. If I ask you what are some things that make you happy, it forces you to think about some things that make you happy. So by proxy, I just controlled your mind. Right? Now, the best thing about this is that you can do this with yourself. So when we're in the process of awareness and now we're able to be intentional, now we can choose our thoughts. And the way that you can control your mind is really by asking yourself the right questions. I'm actually going to do a video on that, just this one concept. So I'm not going to go too deep on that right now. By asking yourself the right questions. Because when you ask yourself, what is the action I need to take to align with this identity? The answer becomes clear. But you wouldn't be able to get there unless you were aware. Right? And this is why awareness is so key, but also being intentional is so key. All of these things are linked, guys. Right? All of these things are key parts of the puzzle. Awareness, intention, asking yourself the question to control your mind. All of these things are linked. Okay? So now, once we ask ourselves that question, then we can start to really get to the root of it, right? And the question that I want us to start asking ourselves is, what is the identity benefit? Right? What is the identity benefit of this action? Right? And also, you can ask yourself, because it may not always be a good action that you're analyzing. Sometimes it may be a bad action. And you got to ask yourself, what identity am I reinforcing with this action? Okay? Because you could be reinforcing an identity that's not congruent with the identity that's required. We did a video on that too, so go watch that a few videos ago. But you could be reinforcing an identity that's not the identity that's required either, so putting yourself more out of alignment. Right? And this is how we push ourselves back. And this is how sometimes we may delay the manifestation. We may delay reality catching up because we're putting ourselves incongruent with the desired reality. So start asking yourself, what identity am I reinforcing with this action? And does that identity align with the ideal identity? Because the ideal identity is the identity that is congruent with the best version of yourself. So when you're analyzing that action, that behavior, and you're saying, is this identity congruent with the ideal identity? Or is this action, this behavior, whatever it may be, this person, right? Whatever it may be, is this congruent with my ideal self? Is this congruent with the best version of me? Whatever way you want to put it. Whatever way you want to put it. But process of awareness starts with controlling your body. Right? Just remembering to breathe first. Breathe correctly. Breathe through your diaphragm. Breathe slowly. Your body will relax. When your body relaxes, your awareness increases. When your awareness increases, now you have access to your mind. When you have access to your mind, now you can ask yourself the right questions. When you're able to ask yourself the right questions, now you can determine if the actions, behaviors, and habits are congruent with your best self. And once you're able to do that, now it's all about conscious congruency. Love y'all. Peace. MJ the Mastermind checking out. Man, literally, I'm not saying this to brag, but I think it's pretty cool. And I just appreciate this gift. Literally, I know I had to do a video tonight within the next 20 minutes. I was thinking about what I was going to do. You know, I was walking around, went into the bathroom, idea hit me. What's the identity benefit of this action? I was just analyzing something. What is the identity benefit of doing this? And then this concept of identity benefit. And then, you know, you have to be aware to be able to catch these downloads, guys, because you're always getting communicated to, right? And, you know, I'm just so blessed to be able to get these downloads, to be able to share it with y'all. And, you know, idea literally came, sat down, boom, within 20 seconds, turned the camera on, and now we're here. It's all about being prolific. Love y'all. MJ the Mastermind checking out. Till the next one. Peace and abundance.